The night was heavy with silence, but the silence was not peaceful. The tall alien trees stretched into the sky, their glowing leaves shining like cold stars. Strange shadows moved among the branches, and every sound in the forest felt like a warning. A young alien girl ran through the glowing grass, her small feet stumbling, her breath sharp and broken. Her eyes were wide, full of fear, and tears left glowing lines on her cheeks. She looked over her shoulder again and again, as if something terrible was chasing her. Her heart screamed for help, but no one was near. No one ever came into this cursed forest at night. But then, she saw something unusual. A figure standing near the edge of the forest holding a small light in his hand. Not an alien, not one of her kind. It was a human. The girl froze for a second, her mind unsure if this was real or a trick. Her people spoke of humans. Wanderers, fighters, strangers from the stars. Some said they were dangerous. Some said they were brave. She did not care which story was true. She only knew she had no time left. She rushed forward, falling to her. Knees before him, her voice cracked, desperate, almost a scream. "Please, human, help. My mom is trapped. In the Sky Hunter's nest." The human looked down at her with surprise, his hand tightening around the light. He was tall, dressed in worn clothes, his face tired but strong. For a moment he said nothing, only studying the strange child who begged him. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes like silver moons. She was not lying. He could feel her terror like a knife cutting the air. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice low but sharp. "Sky hunters," she whispered, looking around the dark trees as if they could hear her even now. "They came at dusk. Their wings filled the sky. Their claws took my mother. They carried her to the nest. On the black cliffs, no one dares go there. No one survives if they try, but you... Please, you are human. You can fight them. You can save her, can't you?" The human's jaw tightened. He had heard rumors of the sky hunters, winged beasts, half animal and half nightmare. Some said they were monsters. Others whispered they were older than the stars. If the stories were true, then going to their nest was suicide. But the girl's silver eyes begged him, her small hands clutching at his sleeve, and deep inside, something stirred. Something he had almost forgotten. The part of him that could not walk away from someone in need. He sighed, shaking. His head slowly. "You don't even know who I am, little one," he said. "Why would you trust me?" The girl's voice trembled. "Because everyone else is too afraid, because you are the only one here, because if I do nothing, my mother will die tonight." Her words cut through his doubts. He felt the weight of her fear, the raw truth in her voice. She had no weapon, no power, nothing but hope, and she had placed all that hope on him. The human crouched down so his eyes met hers. "Show me the way," he said at last, but his voice carried a warning. "If this is a trap, if you are lying to me." The girl shook her head so hard her hair flew. "No lie, I swear it on the moons, please hurry." The human stood, tightening the strap of his small pack. He had no great weapon, no armor, only his courage and the sharp knife at his belt. But he could not turn away now. Something about this child, about her voice, made him feel like fate itself had pulled him into this night. They started walking into the forest. The trees closed around them like tall guards of darkness. The air grew colder and every sound seemed louder than before. Owls with too many eyes stared from branches. Glowing insects flew in strange circles. The girl walked ahead, whispering warnings. "Stay low, don't look up, they hunt from the sky." The human frowned, glancing upward. The stars were hidden behind dark clouds, but sometimes he thought he saw shapes moving, wide wings crossing the night sky, watching, waiting. At last they reached a clearing where the forest ended. Far beyond, black cliffs rose like sharp teeth. Against the horizon, lightning flashed behind them, showing twisted nests built into the stone. The girl pointed with a trembling hand. "There, at the highest nest. My mother is trapped. They will kill her when the moon reaches the top of the sky." The human stared at the cliffs, his heart heavy. How could one man climb into that place, fight creatures that ruled the skies? And yet, He felt the girl's hand grip his tightly. Her small voice whispered, "Please, don't let them take her from me." Above them, a sudden cry echoed through the night. A cry so loud and sharp it shook the trees. The human looked up, and his blood ran cold. A massive shadow passed across the moon, wings stretching wider than any bird he had ever seen. The sky hunters were already watching them, and the night had only just begun. The forest swallowed them as they moved deeper into the night. Every step felt heavy, every sound sharper than before. The girl walked. In front, her small hands brushing the glowing plants as if they guided her way. The human followed close behind, his eyes scanning the sky again and again. He felt watched, hunted, and the silence of the trees felt like a trap waiting to close. The girl's voice was soft but urgent. "You must understand who they are. The sky hunters are not just beasts. They are clever. They are cruel. They take what they want, and no one fights them. No one ever comes back alive." The human's jaw tightened. "Why would they take your mother?" he asked. "She is not like others," the girl whispered. "She is strong. She is a leader. If the sky hunters break her spirit, then my people will lose all hope. They want to crush us by crushing her." The human slowed for a moment, his mind heavy with her words. He had wandered many worlds, seen many rulers, many battles. But something about the girl's fear told him this was more than one family's loss. This was a war, silent and unseen, and he had just stepped into. The forest floor turned rough, roots curling like snakes. The human stumbled once, catching himself on a twisted tree. The bark glowed faintly under his hand, strange symbols pulsing like a heartbeat. "What is this?" he muttered. The girl shook her head quickly. "Do not touch the marked trees. The sky hunters leave them as warnings. They mean we are already inside their hunting ground." The human pulled his hand back at once. His skin tingled, as if something unseen had touched him in return. He tightened his grip on the knife at his belt. He hated this place, hated how the shadows seemed alive. But he pushed forward. He had promised the child, and he would not break his word. A distant screech broke the silence. The girl froze, her body trembling. "Down!" she hissed, pulling the human into the tall grass. They pressed low, the earth cold against their skin. Above them, wings beat the air, slow and powerful. The human held his breath, listening. A shadow glided across the grass, long and sharp. Then another, 2 hunters circling. The girl's small hand clutched his arm. Her eyes squeezed shut, her lips moving in a silent prayer. The human felt his heart pounding. He could hear the creature's screeches echo, the sound cutting through the night like knives. Minutes felt like hours. But at last, the shadows moved. The wings grew faint until there was silence again. The girl let out a shaky breath, tears shining in her eyes. They know we are coming. They are toying with us. That is what they do. They let hope live for a moment, then crush it. The human shook his head firmly. "No, little one. They may hunt from the sky, but they bleed. Like all things, no creature is invincible." His voice was calm, but inside his chest, doubt whispered. He had never seen such creatures before. Would a knife, a bit of courage, be enough against them? But he could not let the girl see his fear. He had to be the strength she no longer had. They walked again, slower now. The trees grew thinner, the ground steeper. Soon the black cliffs came into view. They rose like walls of stone teeth. Jagged and cruel, lightning flashed again, and the human saw the nests, huge structures woven from bones and strange crystal. They clung to the cliffs like scars, glowing faintly in the stormlight. The girl stopped, her whole body shaking. Her voice was barely a whisper. "She is in there, the highest nest, the one touched by lightning. That is where they keep her." The human stared, his breath caught. The nest was enormous, larger than any house. He could see figures moving inside, shadows with wings stretching wide. And somewhere he imagined the girl's mother chained and waiting for death. The girl's voice broke his thoughts. "You can still leave. No one would blame you. My people. They would say you were wise to run. They would say no one can fight the sky hunters. The human turned to her, his eyes sharp. I do not run. Not from tyrants. Not from monsters. He placed his hand gently on her shoulder. You asked me for help. So now I will fight with you. Whatever happens, we do this together. The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded quickly. For the first time that night, a flicker of hope lit her face. Then the air split with a scream. The trees bent under the sound, the ground shook. The humans spun, knife in hand. Above them, wings thundered like drums. A massive shadow fell from the clouds, diving fast. Claws stretched wide, eyes burning red. The sky hunters had found them, and this time, they were not circling. They were attacking. The air shook as the sky hunter dropped from the clouds. Its wings spread wide, wider than the tops of the glowing trees. Its claws cut through the night air, sharp as blades. Its scream was so loud that even the ground seemed to tremble. The human pushed the girl down into the tall grass. Stay low, he shouted, his hand gripping his knife. The girl pressed her face into the dirt, her small body shaking. She wanted to scream, but fear locked her throat. The sky hunter slammed into the earth just a few steps away. The force shook the soil, throwing dust and sparks of light from crushed glowing plants. The creature stood tall, its body covered in dark feathers that shone like metal. Its eyes burned red and its beak was jagged like broken glass. This was no simple animal. This was a predator built for war. The human took a step back, his knife looking small, almost useless against such a monster. But he set his jaw and lifted. The blade. He had fought before. He had survived worse than most men. If this was his last night, he would not die without fighting. The sky hunter tilted its head, studying him. Then, to the human's shock, it spoke. The voice was broken, harsh, like rocks grinding together. Human, you walk in our hunting ground. You bring yourself to the nest of death. Do you wish to feed the nest tonight? The human's heart skipped. This was not a mindless beast. It could think, it could plan, but he did not let fear show. He raised, his chin knife ready. I came for the woman you stole. Release her or face me. The creature let out a cruel laugh, a sound like thunder tearing the sky. It spread its wings, blocking the path forward. Brave words from such weak flesh. The nest will drink your blood. The mother will scream while you burn. The girl, still hidden in the grass, bit her lip to stop from crying. Her eyes filled with tears as she saw the human stand alone against the giant monster. No one had ever spoken to a sky hunter like that. No one had ever dared. The sky hunter lunged, claws slashing. The human rolled to the side, dirt flying as the claws dug deep into the earth. He swung his knife, the blade slicing across the creature's leg. A spray of dark blood hissed on the ground, glowing faintly green. The creature screamed in rage, the sound sharp enough to make the girl cover her ears. The human staggered back, breathing hard. He had cut it, but it was only a scratch. The sky hunter was stronger, faster, and it was only getting angrier. It lashed out again, wings beating so hard the air itself became a storm. The human was thrown back, crashing against a tree. Pain shot through his chest, but he forced himself up. His knife was still in his hand, and his spirit still burning. The sky hunter circled. Its red eyes locked on him. It hissed words again. Foolish human, you cannot win, but perhaps we will keep you alive. Perhaps you will serve the nest like the others, chained, broken, bleeding. The human spat blood into the dirt. His voice was steady, sharp like steel. You talk too much, monster. Let's see if you can bleed more than me. The creature roared and struck. The human ducked low, slashing upward with all his strength. The blade cut across the creature's chest, leaving a deep mark. The green blood sprayed again, and the sky hunter screamed in fury. But in that moment, the human saw something that froze his heart. The sky hunter's claws were no longer reaching for him. They were reaching for the grass where the girl hid. No, the human shouted, running forward. The girl screamed as the creature's talons closed around her, lifting her into the air. Her small hands clawed at the monster's grip, her voice breaking. Help! Please! Don't let it take me! The human leapt, grabbing at the creature's leg, his knife stabbing into the thick hide. For a moment he dangled in the air, the wind roaring around him as the sky hunter beat its wings. The ground fell away beneath them, the trees shrinking as they rose higher. The girl sobbed, trapped in the beast's grip. The human clung desperately, his arm burning with pain, but his mind screamed only one thing: I cannot let go. The sky hunter rose higher and higher, the cliff nests now in sight, glowing with eerie light. The human's grip began to slip, his knife still buried in the creature's leg. The girl's silver eyes locked on his, full of terror and hope. The sky hunter laughed again, its voice booming through the night. Welcome to the nest, human, welcome to your death. And with that, it carried them both toward the black cliffs where even the bravest never returned. The wind screamed around them as the sky hunter carried its prey higher and higher. The girl struggled in its claws, her cries lost in the storm of wings. The human clung to the creature's leg, his fingers aching, his knife still buried in the beast's flesh. Below them, the glowing forest was only a blur of light and shadow. The black cliffs grew closer, their jagged teeth reaching up like the mouth of a monster. The human gritted his teeth, every muscle in his body burned, but he would not release his grip. If he let go now, the girl would be alone. He had promised her he would not abandon her. So he climbed, pulling himself up the creature's leg inch by inch. The sky hunter roared in fury, beating its wings harder, but the human climbed higher. Until his hand reached the joint of the wing, with a fierce cry, he drove his knife deep. The beast shrieked, twisting in the air. It slammed into the cliffside, scraping stone before landing hard in a massive nest. The impact threw the human to the ground, rolling across sharp bones. The girl was dropped beside him, coughing, her face pale with terror. But before he could rise, shadows moved around them. They were not alone. Dozens of sky hunters circled the nest, their wings folding as they stepped forward. Their red eyes glowed in the stormlight, their claws clicking against the stone. The air filled with the stench of feathers, blood, and burning crystal. The human rose slowly, pulling the girl behind him, his knife ready though it shook in his hand. The nest was enormous, larger than any hall he had ever seen. It was built of twisted bones, black iron, and strange crystals that pulsed with sickly light. Cages hung along the edges, filled with broken shapes, other captives silent and still. And at the center of it all, chained by glowing bonds, was a woman. The girl gasped, her voice breaking. "Mother!" The alien woman lifted her head, her silver eyes dim with exhaustion. Her body was thin, her skin bruised, but her spirit was not gone. When she saw her daughter alive, a tear slid down her cheek, but when her gaze fell on the human standing guard in front of her child, her eyes widened with surprise. Before he could speak, a new sound filled the nest, the beating of wings so powerful it shook the bones of the structure. The other sky hunters bowed their heads as a shadow descended. The leader had arrived. It was enormous, its wings wider than any the human had seen. Its feathers shimmered like black fire, and its eyes glowed a deeper red than the others. Around its neck hung chains made from skulls, trophies of past kills. Its voice thundered as it spoke. "You dare climb into my nest, human. You dare wound one of my hunters. You dare stand before me with knife in hand?" The human's grip tightened on his blade. He felt the girl trembling behind him, but he stood firm. "I came for the woman you chained. Release her, or face me." The leader laughed, the sound echoing like rolling thunder through the cliffs. "Face you? You are nothing, a child with a toy. Do you think courage can cut wings? Do you think flesh can fight the sky?" The girl's mother raised her head, her voice weak but clear. "Do not listen to him. They feed on fear. That is their true weapon. Do not give it to them." The human's heart pounded. He knew he was surrounded, outnumbered, and standing inside the heart of his enemy's power. But he refused to bow. He lifted his knife, his voice steady. "You call me nothing. Then let nothing be the one to end you." The sky hunters screeched, their wings beating in anger. The leader's eyes narrowed. "You will regret those words, human. We will not only kill you, we will make you watch as your strength, your defiance, turns to screams." With a roar, the leader spread its wings. The crystals in the nest pulsed brighter, filling the air. With strange energy, chains rattled as the girl's mother tried to rise, but her bonds held her down. The girl clung to the human's arm, her voice breaking. "You can't fight them all, we must run, please." But there was no escape. The nest was high above the world, the cliffs too steep, the hunters too many. The human knew there was only one path forward, through them. He scanned the nest quickly, his eyes landing on the glowing crystals woven into the structure. They pulsed like veins as if they were the heart of the nest itself, and then he understood. If he could not fight them all, he would make the nest fall. He whispered to the girl, his voice low, "Stay behind me. Whatever happens, don't let go of my hand." Her silver eyes shone with fear, but also with trust. She nodded, holding tighter. The human faced the leader again, his knife raised. The storm howled outside the cliffs, lightning flashing across the sky. The leader roared, its wings filling the nest with shadow. The hunters moved in, claws ready, eyes burning, and then the human ran forward, not at the leader, but at the glowing heart of the nest, his knife aimed at the crystal veins that held the sky hunter's power. The battle for survival had truly begun. The nest shook as the human charged at the glowing crystal veins. The sky hunter leader roared, wings spreading like a storm. Dozens of hunters hissed and lunged, their claws reaching to tear him apart. But the human did not slow, his knife gleaming. As lightning flashed outside the cliffs with all his strength, he drove the blade into the pulsing crystal. The nest screamed, a sharp sound that made the air crack like glass. Green light burst out, throwing sparks across the ground. The hunters staggered back, screeching in fury as the structure shook under their talons. The leader's voice thundered, "Fool! You dare wound the heart of the nest?" Its red eyes burned brighter, its claws glowing with dark fire. It leapt forward, smashing the human aside with a single strike. The human crashed against a wall of bone, pain shooting through his chest. His knife clattered to the ground, the glow of the crystal fading. He coughed, blood staining his lips, but when he looked up, he did not see defeat. He saw the girl clutching the cage bars of her mother, whispering through her tears, "Please, stand again, please don't stop now." The leader advanced slowly, its massive wings folding close. "You are strong, human, stronger than most prey. But strength alone cannot change fate. Your bones will join the nest, and your screams will join our song." The human forced himself up, every bone in his body aching. He spat blood on the ground and looked the monster in the eye. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I cannot kill you all, but I can make sure you bleed, and I can make sure you never forget a human stood here." The sky hunters hissed, their wings snapping open like blades. The leader raised its claw to strike, but before it could, the girl's mother lifted her head. Her voice rang out, weak, but full of fire. "You mock him, but he has done what none of us dared. He touched your heart, he wounded the nest itself. That is why you fear him." The leader snarled, snapping its head toward her. "Silence, prisoner, your time is ending." But the human used that moment. He rolled forward, grabbed his knife, and slashed at the crystal again. The nest screamed louder this time, cracks spreading across the glowing veins. The ground shook, feathers and bone raining down from above. The hunters shrieked in fury, swarming him. The human swung his blade, cutting one, dodging another. He fought with the desperate fury of a cornered beast. Every strike was wild but full of strength. Every breath burned his lungs, but he did not stop. The girl's mother pulled at her chains, her hands glowing faintly with hidden power. She was weak, but the bonds that held her trembled. The girl shouted encouragement, her small voice piercing through the chaos. "Don't give up, you can do it, you can break them." The leader screeched and slammed its claw into the ground. The force threw the human into the air, smashing him hard into the side of the nest. The knife slipped from his hand again, skidding across the floor of bone. The hunters closed in, claws ready to tear him apart. The girl screamed, "No!" Something changed inside the human then. Through the pain, through the fear, a fire rose within him. He pushed himself up once more, blood dripping from his face. He grabbed a burning shard of crystal from the floor. Its edges cut his skin, but he held it firm like a new weapon. The leader laughed. "You think a shard of stone will save you? Your struggle is meaningless." The human's eyes blazed with fury. Meaningless? Tell that to her, child. Tell that to every soul you chained. Here! With a roar, he plunged the crystal shard deep into the cracked veins of the nest. This time the glow exploded, blinding light filling the chamber. The nest shook violently, parts of it collapsing. Hunters screamed in panic as the structure trembled. Beneath their claws, the leader staggered, its wings flaring in rage. It struck at the human, pinning him to the ground, claws at his throat. Its voice rumbled with fury. You will die now, human, and your fire will die with you. The human struggled, the sharp talons cutting into his skin. His lungs burned as the weight crushed him, but just as darkness threatened to take him, a new light burst across the nest. The girl's mother broke her chains, her power flaring at last. Energy surged from her hands, striking the leader across its chest. The beast screamed in pain, stumbling. Back as smoke rose from its feathers, the human gasped for breath, crawling to his knees. He looked at the girl's mother, who stood weak but free. Her voice trembled, but her words were strong. You are not alone, human. Tonight we fight together. The sky hunters screeched in fury, wings filling the air as they prepared to strike again. The nest burned with green fire, its crystal heart breaking apart. And in the middle of it all stood a bleeding man, a broken mother, and a terrified child. Outnumbered, surrounded, but standing as one, the leader's eyes glowed like fire as it rose to full height. The storm raged outside, lightning cutting across the sky. The battle for the nest was far from over, but the human did not feel fear anymore. He felt something stronger, defiance, and with that defiance he prepared for the fight of his life. The nest burned with green fire. Cracks raced across the crystal veins, making the whole structure groan like a wounded beast. Pieces of bone and stone fell from above, smashing into the ground. The screams of the sky hunters filled the air as the human, the alien mother, and the girl stood together at the nest's heart. The leader spread its enormous wings, its red eyes glowing with rage. You will all die here, it roared. The hunters circled, their claws flashing, waiting for the command to strike. But the nest shook harder with each passing second. The ground under their talons was no longer steady. The human wiped blood from his face, his chest rising and falling like a war drum. He turned to the mother, who leaned weakly against the broken chains. Can you walk? He asked quickly. She nodded, her silver eyes glowing faintly. I can, but my power is not full yet. Then stay close, he said, gripping the girl's hand tightly. We're not dying here, not tonight. The leader let out a terrible cry, and the hunters rushed forward. The human swung his shard of crystal like a blade, cutting into one's wing. The mother raised her hand, sending a weak blast of energy that threw another into the nest wall. The girl clung to the human's arm, her voice trembling. Please don't stop, please keep fighting. But the nest itself was their greatest weapon. The ground cracked open, glowing green light bursting from below. The cages of broken captives fell into the darkness, their chains snapping as the floor gave way. The hunters shrieked in confusion, some taking flight as the nest began to collapse. The human pulled the mother and child toward the edge. There, he shouted, pointing to a narrow path that wound down the cliff. But it was blocked by two hunters, their wings stretched wide. The leader swooped low, its massive form cutting off any escape. You cannot run, human, the sky belongs to us. The human's eyes narrowed. Then I'll steal it from you. With sudden force, he threw the glowing shard into the cracked heart of the nest. The crystal exploded, sending a shockwave through the chamber. The hunters screamed as fire and smoke erupted around them. The leader staggered, blinded for a moment. The human seized the chance, dragging the mother and girl toward the edge. They raced down the bone pathway, shards of crystal raining from above. The cliff shook, chunks of stone breaking free and falling into the abyss below. The girl stumbled, but the human lifted her in his arms without slowing. The mother leaned against the wall, her strength failing. Still, she kept moving, her eyes blazing with determination. Behind them, wings beat furiously. Hunters dived, their screeches echoing across the cliffs. The human ducked as one slashed at him, the claws tearing through his shoulder. Pain ripped through him, but he held on, refusing to fall. He struck back with his knife, stabbing deep into the hunter's chest. The creature screeched and fell, crashing into the rocks below. Keep moving, The human growled, his voice rough. The path narrowed, only wide enough for one at a time. The wind howled around them, threatening to pull them off into the abyss. The girl buried her face in his chest, sobbing softly. The mother pressed her, hand against the cliff wall, whispering words of strength. We are almost free, we must believe it. But freedom was not so close. The leader descended again, blocking the path with its enormous wings. It glared at them, smoke rising from its wounds. You will not leave this place alive, it hissed. Its talons clutched the edge of the cliff, shaking the narrow path. The human stepped forward, placing himself between the beast and the mother and child. He lifted his knife once more, his body shaking but his spirit unbroken. The leader's laugh was low and cruel. You are only flesh? What makes you think you can stand against the sky itself? The human's voice was steady. Because flesh can break stone and flesh can bleed, but flesh can also fight, and tonight, human flesh will defy the sky. With a roar, the leader lunged. The human met it head-on, slashing with his knife. The clash shook the cliff, sparks flying as claw met blade. The mother raised her hands, sending bursts of light to blind the hunters trying to dive in. The girl screamed, covering her ears from the thunder of wings. The battle raged, but the cliff could not take it. With a crack like thunder, the pathway split apart. The human grabbed the girl and leapt, landing hard on a lower ledge. The mother followed, falling beside them, her power cushioning her landing. Above them, the leader roared in fury, the collapsing nest burning behind it. The human gasped, his arms aching, his wounds burning. But when he looked at the girl and her mother, both alive, both holding on, he felt strength return to him. They had escaped the heart of the nest. But the fight for their lives was far from over. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the leader. As it spread its wings again, the hunters circled like vultures above, waiting for the command. The nest was falling, the cliff breaking apart. And yet, the human stood tall, knife in hand, his eyes blazing with fire. This was not the end. This was the beginning of their escape, and he would not stop until he had torn the girl and her mother from the claws of the sky forever. The storm raged across the cliffs. Lightning split the sky, painting the world in flashes of white fire. The nest above was crumbling, burning with green light as the crystals shattered. Pieces of bone and stone rained down, falling into the endless abyss below. The human stood on the narrow ledge, his body covered in cuts and bruises. His knife glistened in his blood-stained hand. Beside him, the girl clung to her mother, both trembling but alive. And above them, the sky hunter leader spread its enormous wings, its red eyes glowing with fury. You cannot escape, human, the leader growled, its voice shaking the stones. You have wounded the nest, you have shamed us before our flock, but tonight, you and your fragile flesh will be nothing more than ash. The hunters circled. Overhead, their screams sharp as blades. The girl buried her face in her mother's torn robes, whispering through tears, Please, don't let him die. The human tightened his grip on the knife. He could feel his strength slipping, his body crying out for rest. But when he looked at the girl's silver eyes filled with fear and hope, he knew he had one last fight left inside him. The leader lunged, its wings battering the air. The human dove aside, rolling across the stone. The claws smashed into the ledge, breaking chunks of rock loose. Dust and sparks flew into the storm. The human struck, his knife slicing across the creature's wing joint. The leader screamed in rage, spinning to strike him with its tail. The blow sent him crashing into the wall, pain exploding through his ribs. He struggled to stand, coughing blood, but his eyes still blazed with fire. The mother raised her hand weakly, sending a blast of light at the leader. It staggered, roaring, but the strike was too small to bring it down. Her body shook, her strength fading fast. Still she stood, her voice firm. Do not give in, human. You are more than you believe. The leader laughed cruelly. More? He is nothing. Look at him. Bleeding, broken, ready to fall. This is the end of your so-called savior. But the human pushed himself to his feet, his knife steady in his hand. His voice was low, sharp, unshaken. You call me nothing, but nothing has cut you. Nothing has burned your nest, and nothing will end you. The leader roared and charged again. The ledge shook as it landed, claws tearing through stone. The hunters screamed above, their wings blotting out the moon. It felt like the sky itself had turned against him. The human braced himself and, at the last second, he dropped low. The leader's strike missed, crashing into the cliff. The rock split, and part of the ledge crumbled away. The human saw his chance. With a fierce cry, he leapt forward and drove his knife deep into the leader's chest. The blade pierced through feathers and flesh, striking the creature's heart. Green blood exploded, hissing as it burned the stone. The leader screamed, its wings thrashing wildly, sending shockwaves through the air. The hunters shrieked in panic as their master staggered. The human clung to the knife, refusing to let go even as the beast thrashed. "Fall!" he growled through his teeth. And with one final strike, the leader toppled backward. Its massive body crashed into the burning nest. The explosion of crystal and fire lit the entire sky, and then the leader was gone, swallowed by the abyss. The hunters froze, their cries turning into silence. Their red eyes dimmed, their wings folding in fear. Without their leader, their power was broken. One by one, they turned and fled into the storm. The sky, once full of their shadows, was suddenly empty. The human staggered, his knife falling from his bloody hand. His legs gave way and he dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. The girl ran to him, throwing her arms around his shoulders. "You did it! You saved her! You saved us!" The mother approached slowly, her body weak but her eyes glowing with pride. She knelt before the human, bowing her head deeply. Her voice was steady, though soft. "You are no stranger, no wanderer. You are protector. You stood against the sky when no one else dared. And for that my people will honor you as one of our own." The human looked at her, tired but smiling faintly. "I'm no hero," he whispered. "I just couldn't walk away." The girl shook her head, her silver eyes shining with tears and joy. "No, you are more than hero. You are family now." They stood together on the cliff, the storm slowly fading. The green glow of the destroyed nest burned behind them. The air was cleaner, lighter, as if the chains of the sky had broken. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight painted the cliffs gold. The girl leaned against the human, her small voice soft. "Will you stay with us? We need you. I need you." The human gazed at the horizon, the rising sun warming his tired face. He did not answer at once. Part of him longed to rest, to stay. Another part of him knew the stars still called, and many more battles awaited. At last he spoke, his voice calm but full of promise. "For now I will stay, but wherever there are chains, wherever there is fear, that is where I will go. Because no sky, no nest, no monster will ever own us again." The mother and daughter smiled through their tears, and as the sun rose higher, the cliffs no longer felt like a prison. They felt like the beginning of a new dawn, a dawn of respect, a dawn of freedom, a dawn born from the courage of a human who refused to let go.